Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks. So welcome to the third event in the university's NEIU Alumni All Access Series in conjunction with the International Business Conference. The NEIU Alumni All Access Speaker Series is designed to demonstrate the lifelong value of a Northeastern Illinois University degree from the perspective of the university's most successful and inspirational alumni. This event is special because it is in collaboration with the College of Business and Management's annual IBC. Thank you for the hard work for all of those involved. Tonight we get to hear from a talented tech executive from the world of consumer goods. Julie Anderson is a proud graduate of Northeastern Illinois University, earning a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and General Business Administration. She is currently the Global Chief Information Officer at Smithfield Foods, a $15 billion global food company and the world's largest pork processor and hog producer. Prior to Smithfield, Julia was Vice President of Global Applications and CIO of North America at H.J. Heinz, where she was instrumental in the successful privatization of the company. Prior to Heinz, Julia was an IT leader at PepsiCo, held leadership roles at Kraft Foods during the merger, and joined parent company Altria, where she was responsible for corporate systems. So in other words, she knows a little bit about computers and other tech, right? If you're wondering how she got her start, she started her career at Baxter Healthcare, a role she attained because Baxter recruited NEIU graduates for their information management team. So we wish to thank Julia and Smithfield Foods as platinum sponsors of this event. And we're also very proud of alumni such as Julia. And without further ado, here she is to share her recipe for success. So please join me in welcoming this amazing NEIU alumna, Julia Anderson.
Thank you. Hello, Northeastern. And hello, Chicago. It's good to be home. I absolutely love to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Home now for me is Stamford, Connecticut. Just a few personal notes. And Stamford is actually where my husband works. And we have 5 children that are all early on in their careers or finishing their school. And they're all near to Stamford as well. And I also have a home in Smithfield, Virginia. Because that seems to be the trend now, is going where the jobs are and going where the work is. So I have a home in Smithfield, I commute to Stamford, we have offices in Lyle, so I come home to Chicago whenever I can. So we're going to get started here. I'm thrilled to be here, combining some of my experience of trying to get to be a CIO, and also tied with this International Business Conference. Oh, that was right. Okay. So, in the introduction, you heard that I do have a business and an IT degree, and that's basically what I've been doing my whole career. I've worked for consumer branded companies. They're all global companies, and throughout my career, early on, the way that I started those roles really was through using my network and through using Northeastern for Baxter, as we talked about, but also telling everybody that I met what I wanted to do. So one of the things that's important is it's very difficult to land that first entry-level role. I worked for a grocery store. I didn't have any internship positions, but I had a great degree. And so after working through the recruitment office and getting hired at Baxter, where actually I knew it was a great company because my sister had started there the year before, that's really what kicked off. So sometimes you just need to get that first opportunity, and then from there, you look at what your goals are and how you can start to attain them. So using your resources, using your network, family, and friends, and now you actually have the ability to use recruiting online, LinkedIn, and you can reach out to so many more people globally. Kraft Foods, I actually attained that role because my next door neighbor worked at Kraft Foods and they were doing a big recruitment effort. It was at the time when they were doing something called KGF 2000, bringing Kraft General Foods and Oscar Mayer together, and they actually offered people to put a drawing to win a safari. So my neighbor did win some recruiting bonus, but she did not win the safari when I took the role at Kraft Foods. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some trends in business and in CPG. So right now, it's sort of happening again. This is what was happening back in the 90s, in the early 80s and 90s. There was a lot of large companies and private equity firms that would buy up similar companies. So they would go out and acquire and bring together companies, but they would run them fiercely independent. So Altria, or Philip Morris, bought Kraft, Miller Brewing, General Foods, Oscar Mayer. But they didn't blend them together right away, they ran them independently. Later, when you thought about the fact that you were selling to the same customers, you were buying from the same suppliers, it started to make sense that to gain efficiency and to really save some money, it might make sense to become one company and be one company to the customers, to the employees, and also to your suppliers. So that one company model also comes with a big investment in IT. That's usually when they want to bring in a head of IT and they really want to go out and put in enterprise systems end to end. And then they'll take the money that they save and they'll invest that into emerging markets, maybe moving product extensions, packaging extensions, moving to China, going into Brazil, expanding in Europe, which we call a developed market. So we have our developed markets and our emerging markets in CPG, as you're bringing the brands and sometimes changing the brands and flavors for those profiles. That gives the company the opportunity and the funding to do that innovation. So in my career, and in most of my comments tonight, I'm going to talk about going from that one company, that transformational role, to the emerging market or to that innovation. So when I started at Kraft Foods, I was responsible to bring Kraft General Foods and Oscar Mayer together for the the customer service space. And we were doing lots of great projects. This is where I really learned to be a team leader. So that's different than being a member of the team. And I also learned to roll out really complex technology projects during this time. So really in the beginning of your career, when you start with a new company, you start in a new industry, you want to learn everything about that company and industry end to end. It doesn't matter if you're in finance, marketing, business development. The more you can learn about that company end to end, the more successful you'll be. And in IT, if you want to be a CIO, you have to learn about everything in that business and how to operate it. So I had this great job and I was loving it. I had a great team, I had responsibility, and then my manager called me into his office. And he said, we have to form a team to prepare ourselves for the year 2000. Now, none of you have any idea what ruckus the year 2000 caused. But in the IT world, nobody had ever coded the century. So instead of 1985, it was just 85. So every computer system across the world was thought that it would crash and burn the day we rolled over to the new century. So projects were created. So this is the kiss of death. I'm working with the business, I'm traveling all over to plants and DCs, and you want me to go work on this cleanup project for some guys who can figure out they should have put the century in back when they coded? So I'm not too excited about this. And now my peers call me aside and they say, don't take that job. You know they're going to give your job away, and then what will you do? Where will you go after that? So I really had to think about this. I like the boss. We were going to be using this new offshoring model. Very cool. I'll be working with India and Israel. Maybe I get to go there. And I thought, I don't really want my old job back. I've done that job. I can do another job. So I took the year 2000 job. So when opportunities come, you really have to think, how do they look wrapped up, but what can you really learn from that? In this case, I'm glad I took the job. We got through the factory, we got the year 2000 all buttoned up, and we actually used it as an opportunity to retire 60% of our portfolio. Remember I said Kraft, General Foods, Oscar Mayer? Well, we put new systems in, but we never retired the old ones. So this was an opportunity to eliminate some of the big computing systems, to eliminate a lot of extra junk that was sitting around. It got me exposure to all of the heads of business who were thrilled to get that extra savings, and I ended up winning a leadership award for that. So I took that opportunity to over-deliver, but also took that challenge, even though to me it didn't look like a really awesome, sexy project to go on. So think about when you get opportunities where they can bring you. After that, I was offered a job at the parent company in New York. That was a little tougher. I had to move, I had to leave my family, but I made the decision that because I knew I wanted to be a CIO and I had to learn every aspect of the organization, and I had been the head of supply chain and the head of operations and the head of finance, and I worked with HR in the year 2000, I was still missing corporate and marketing. And so I ended up taking that job and moving. And as a result, I got my first divisional head role. And it was for a company called Chevalier Coffee. So they named me the leader of Javalia Coffee. And they said, Julia, it's a $230 million business. We give you a coffee pot. It's direct to consumer. The product comes from Sweden. It's, international trips. It's all great. Super excited. I go in, what's the first order of business? I need to learn the business. I don't know about continuity. I don't know a whole lot about planning for that type of a sale to a customer. So I have things to learn. I hear that the supply chain guys meet at 7 a.m. I show up. The meeting disbands. There's a 3 o'clock meeting. It's not in the room that the meeting notice said it would be in. So I started to kind of figure out, I don't think these guys like me very much. I don't think they're actually interested in having a head of IT. And it could be my age, it could be that they really like the guy who I replaced, it could be a lot of things. But I can't go tell my boss, thanks for this great opportunity, but nobody likes me. So I've always practiced active networking. I've always kept in touch with my former bosses. I've kept in touch with mentors and developed relationships and always try to help others. And so I called one of my really wise friends and I told him my situation. And together we agreed, probably no matter what I did, I was not going to be accepted. But I knew I had grand ideas. And this hurt because supply chain was my specialty. I could really come in and help, but they didn't want to hear from me. So I brought in a couple consultants. They looked very similar to the guys on the Javalia team. They had a lot of great experience, and they were trusted. And after they came in, we got some information, and we started working on strategy and talking about what we were going to do for Javalia, not just bringing corporate systems in. They accepted me. We rolled out those systems and made a big difference to the business, and it was an absolutely great time. But trust has to be earned before you can do business. And it doesn't matter why a group may exclude you. They may not even understand themselves. But you have to get creative in how you get yourself in there and win. So I wasn't going to be blocked out. And through word of mouth and through bringing in some additional help, I was able to do what I was brought in there to do, which was transform those systems and help Javalia grow. $230 million business within Kraft Foods. So now is the time when we talk about a little bit of that innovation stuff. So in Kraft in the year 2000, we were doing some pretty cool stuff. We had beautiful photography, recipe sharing. This was just the beginning of really, you still had to pay for AOL to get your ads up to the top. It was a time where we had to be very concerned if we had a big program, we had to throw extra capacity at it and we had to babysit it. So this whole media, social thing, this was all very new, but we were looking to understand consumer behavior and to understand consumer preferences by using technology. And the company was investing in technology. So this was a really cool time to be in IT. So whenever you get through that, rolling out the enterprise systems, the prize at the end is you get to invest money in some of the cool technology. And so we had magazines, gaming. I don't know if anyone remembered Nabisco World or some of these other crazy games that were out there, but they appealed to moms, and moms bought Kraft products and General Foods products. In the middle of doing that work, Kraft decided that IT was going to be the first division to actually go global. They were going to completely reorganize and be a global team. So we had a week of meetings where all of the international IT leaders came in. There were 15 of them. They each either represented 1 to 3 countries. And then we had 15 senior leaders from IT for the US. And the 30 of us had a facilitated session. We learned a lot of information about each other. And the facilitator said, there's just one thing. After the first day, they said, we were heading over to dinner at the Shedd Aquarium, and they said, I want each of you groups to ask the other group a question, just one question. And so our question for them was 15 guys, leaders in IT, and 25 countries, we're all the women. There wasn't a single woman that came over for this, with this IT leadership group for Kraft. Their question for us was, there's 15 IT leaders, isn't the US just one country? So they really were unsure, why would it take so many of us to run a country and to run IT for a country? So that really opened the door, and it made me see people are people, and culture is really what you need to understand, whether it's domestically or internationally. To work together, you really have to understand kind of where everybody's coming from, what are those unspoken things, And of course, you have to understand all the rules of business across the different countries. But that was really the icebreaker for us. And when we reorganized and were the first team to go global and the rest of the company followed, they all kind of followed that pattern of getting the leaders together and having these conversations. So asking questions and being curious and getting those things out on the table, you know, whether it's with consultants or whether it's with your own team members from, you know, the other side of the pond, those are really important things. And they might seem awkward, but those are the things that really get teams going from good to great. So now we move on to PepsiCo. I had some great experience in terms of being able to be the head of IT. And I'm still within a pretty large company. PepsiCo had a food service division, and food service is when you go eat at a restaurant, you eat in the cafeteria, it's whatever you're selling. We're selling not to the retail store, but we're selling something that's to be consumed immediately. So it was a $2.3 billion business, and they didn't have anybody within Pepsi in the New York area that they thought could come in and really design systems end to end. Because you have to pull data from the Frito systems and the Quaker and the Tropicana and the Gatorade and the Pepsi bottlers. You have to pull all this information together and create a supply chain, create information for the sales teams, the business development teams. And so the recruiter called me and I ended up accepting the position. So this was great because now I had an actual operational end-to-end role. The role was bigger and I could bring all those experiences that I had done. So about a couple of years into rolling out the strategy for food service and business is doing very well, the vision's doing very well, company decides that we're going to buy our two biggest bottlers. So we're now going to go from a $30 billion company by buying two bottlers to a $60 billion company. So this is all starting to be very familiar for me. So once the ink is dry on the contracts and we talk about beginning to do the one, let's bring us together as one, I called a meeting and we did this at the hangar. So this was neutral space, the hangar at Westchester Airport where our corporate jets would take us back and forth when we were doing all the work with the different companies. And I grabbed, and then one of the bottles was in Chicago, which is why we were coming here and going to New York. So I grabbed the heads of food service and the IT leads, and I had them all come to this secret meeting. And I said, we need to create our own destiny here, guys. We need to talk about which are the best systems, which are the best processes, who are the best people. And so instead of waiting to have this be done to us, or have the consultants come in and give us some numbers, we proactively created a roadmap to bring food service together. Now everybody wasn't excited about this, and this was pretty unheard of. But I'm positive that when they decided to name the head of IT between me and the leader from the two bottler sides for the $6 billion combined food service division, I'm 100% sure that I got that role because of reaching out, taking action, and saying, this needs to get done, let's get after it, let's get over kind of the politics and the worry, and let's move forward. So taking action, when you know what needs to be done, where it's appropriate, will always get you ahead. Then we moved into a little more innovation, so we'll talk about this babies on the next slide. So the battle of the brands. So we were doing some investing at PepsiCo in building out a fountain. We were doing this because if you want to get PepsiCo to spend money on innovation, Coke. If Coke does it, point that out to someone and Pepsi will be doing it. And it's the same way the other way around. Very competitive companies, very competitive. And so they had this big red refrigerator, it's called Freestyle. And you could make swamp water. You could have all sorts of different flavors in there. And it was the cool thing because it was on the internet. It was on the Internet of Things. And so now we're behind. So, I signed my secret note that I'm going to work on this Shockwave project where we're going to compete. And they asked me, can I automate this fountain? They're going to make maybe 10 of them. And I think, well, I could, but that's an awful lot of work for 10 fountains. But I know, because I've worked in food service, that we have thousands of machines across the globe. In fact, I know some of my friends in Europe are working on putting pizza-making machines and all kinds of, interesting vending. So, as a result, I created a smart equipment network to attach our coolers, our vendors, and our fountain machines to. So the ask was, please automate a specific device. As a result, we created a network that had great benefits, operational benefits of being able to take trucks that go and deliver to hotels and other places and fill the machine to know exactly what to bring. They used to go and walk around and then go to the truck and say, ooh, do I have the right product? Benefits of having just less trucks on the road, environmental benefits. If the school closes for 3 months, you could deplete the product and then empty it. You could change the marketing mix. So we always had the same exact products in the boys' locker room and the girls' locker room. But they don't drink the same thing, they want different things. So being able to mix that up, why? Because now we know how much money should be in that machine at the end of the night. So all kinds of great opportunities for putting this network in place. And while preparing for this, I was looking online and I saw in Forbes a PepsiCo 2016 plan. And they talk about a new vending machine, and they call the vending machine Hello Goodness. It's to help you make healthy choices. And they mentioned a little thing called a smart equipment network that it runs on, which was the equipment network that we developed back when I was at PepsiCo. So designing things for the greater good, thinking about that business case, not just doing something that you're asked to do, really being creative. I mean, these are things that will always help you in your careers and as you're trying to move to those next roles. Then we moved into my Heinz days. So I was offered a position as the head of North America for Heinz. 4 weeks later, we were purchased by 3G Capital and Berkshire Hathaway. Completely new culture. They changed out the entire management team. I was there 4 weeks. I did a 10-minute interview for my job, as is the custom, and my job expanded. They added VP of Global Applications and rollout of SAP, which is that one enterprise system that I talk about that we always do first. Everything from buying, making, selling, delivering. And I got some interesting questions from the 3G guys who came in to run, like, how do we make ketchup? And, they have a big learning curve, but they brought some really interesting concepts. One of them was zero-based budgeting. That's where you just wipe out everything and you build all your budgets from the bottom up. Another was around KPIs, measuring things. We all say have measurable goals, measure things, have goals. We had goals that were so detailed, we would talk about on-time delivery to a customer. So we're shipping to Costco, we're shipping to Kroger. If it's on time, we're at 100%. If you have to change the requested delivery date, excuse me. If you have to change the requested delivery date, then you're not on time. That starts to hit your on-time 97%. As soon as you go below 97%, that starts clicking off your bonus. So they were tying pay, bonus, really motivating everybody across the company by knowing exactly what was important to us, what those goals and KPIs were. And then from a system standpoint, we had to pull that data every day and put it up on screens and show people. Amazing how that changed behavior. It was a very tough, aggressive culture, but people were accountable. People understood exactly what they were to measure, and people did it. So it's very, very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about some more CPG trends, because they actually call it the 3G effect in some of the conferences that the CEOs of the consumer packaged goods companies go to. But zero-based budgeting and zero-based planning is a thing. It started with the military. It could be used, or the government actually, it could be used to cut costs and cut heads. Or it could be used to find where you have efficiencies in money and reinvest it in places you want to invest it, like innovation. Shared services is also a big thing. Payroll, finance, IT. We did a global shared service I talked about a few slides ago, and we moved to global IT at Kraft. So that's another big trend right now in all of the CPG companies. Finding those operational efficiencies really any way you can, combining in these global centers. If the teams in Russia or Poland can do the work better, we move it over there. And then reinvesting all of that in innovation, product innovation, digital. So this trend is kind of repeating itself. Then I end up at Smithfield, responsible for IT globally. I have teams in Poland and Romania. We're putting in this big ERP in the US, and we're moving to Poland, Romania, and then we'll be expanding to the 10 countries that we also sell to, and we're looking to double that. So As we're looking at building out that one Smithfield, bringing Smithfield, Farmland, and John Rowe Food Group together, I want to leapfrog into becoming really a consumer packaged goods and really getting to that innovation. So how are we doing so far? Well, if we look at some of the latest technologies and trends going on in some of my competitors and some of my former companies, everybody's doing social and mobile. So what does that mean? We're connecting with the consumer online. Our brands are out there. You can tweet about them. You can join us on Facebook. There's all kinds of connections. Cloud is it's a way to have all your hardware and infrastructure in a data center that you can dial up and dial down what you need. So it's a business model that we use in IT to save money, because you don't need all your servers on all the time at peak capacity. So this public cloud and private cloud concept is out there. So we're doing really well there. We're very engaged. In terms of predictive analytics, this is another trend where we can try to determine what behaviors does an employee start to exhibit when they're going to leave the company. So maybe we can go check on that person and see if we're challenging them, and what are the behaviors that our consumer has before they choose another brand. So really being able to try to predict, not only with our sales data and our information, but all this data that's out there that all of you put out there freely, and pulling that information in and saying, how can we start to predict and understand behaviors, and how can we start to surprise and delight our consumers and our customers in more ways? So we're active. We have some good ideas, and we're working with some companies to build some databases. There's the concept of crowdsourcing, especially used in manufacturing. You put a problem out there, and I can't get the packaging to stick. This glue is a problem. I can't get this one formulation right. And with crowdsourcing, people from all over the globe will, oftentimes for a finder's fee, will start to help solve that problem. We're very novice there. We were thinking about using it for some internal innovation, doing some sort of jams internally, but we're really just starting on the crowdsourcing. And then wearables. So wearables, we're just watching right now, but we think that's a really interesting idea. Fitbits, Under Armour, all of these opportunities to get data for your employees, to give back to your employees so they could use for their health, for their wellness, for their goals. So we think that's something that would be a service for our own employees. How can we use wearables? So that's kind of where we are in terms of our scorecard for Smithfield. Really spending our time doing those transformational things that I talked about, and then trying, from my view, to watch those technologies that would matter and try to get us past the novice and into the actual, practicing on stage. So I come back to this slide, because one thing I didn't mention is, I had this goal to become a divisional IT lead, and I got bigger and bigger and bigger roles, and I brought my experience, because I went in and the jobs were offered, I took them and I did them and I learned with me, but we didn't talk about that life happens along the way. And so it made it look like it took me quite a while to get to my first goals. But I didn't mention during that time that I also got married, I had children. Those children had defense, they went to school, so there's times where I took roles where I didn't travel. And there's times when I take roles now, I go live in Pittsburgh, and I go live in Smithfield, and I travel all over. I travel to Europe, and I spend weeks in China. And it's fine, it's great, I love it. But you have to make your choices now, early in your career, and throughout, that are the choices that fit your life and your lifestyle, that make you feel good. And you have to work for employers that have your values. And I stayed, a long time at wonderful companies that I have the same values, and I expect to be at Smithfield for a long time. But you really want to make sure you're thinking about your choices with, your life events and responsibilities in mind, your location, your geography. So I just wanted to mention that because it's definitely a factor. So this is Ned. Ned lives in Brooklyn. He's a rescue cat. And the most important thing that I put Ned up there for is actually my son's cat, and he made the slides for me. Not Ned, my son. So the most important thing is Ned's super curious, right? And that's the most important thing that you guys can do right now. Be curious about business. Be curious about cultures. Understand everything that you can learn, everything that you can soak in, and try things. If you don't try, you're not learning. It's okay to do something new. Half of the jobs I went into, they brought me in because of my experience, but I had never done it before. So you learn it, and your network will help you. Business people love to talk about their roles. People who are running the business and doing business development, the sales guys, love it. Marketing people love the help. Finance people, they'll take you through every spreadsheet they have. Go to lunch with someone who's in the business you want to be in. Link in somebody. Ask people questions. They love to talk about their lives. So Ned says, be curious, take action, and learn by doing. The last thing I have for you here is just a couple books that I've used along my career. And I picked these three just in terms of some of the topics that we're going through. But the first one is really about doing business internationally. And it's kind of one of those templated ones and talks about different cultures. But it really, if you're going to go to another country, or if I'm going to be on a telepresence or on a web meeting once a week, I meet with my guys from Poland and Romania and UK. You know, you look at this and you think about how can you connect and how can you relate. Now in Europe, we've been working together for a long time. They're the developed market. When when I go spend time in Guangzhou, I kind of think about how those decisions get made there. What's the culture? So it's a really great book because you can really go in and it just gets you thinking. And might have you go talk to some other people with experience as well. The next one is called Failing Forward. Love this book. This book is fail early, fail often, but always fail forward. In IT, we fail. In IT, bad things happen. You have to set those expectations and then talk about what great things we learned about that. Now, that wasn't a failure. We now know this and we won't have this other bad thing happen. I mean, you really have to be able to make the best of, if you're trying something to improve the business and it doesn't go perfect, fail forward. And if at first you do succeed, go try something harder. I love that book. It's very inspirational because it tells you if you have the right attitude, you'll keep learning and you'll keep trying. And the last one, FYI, that's really for coaching and mentoring. It's competencies. So if you want to improve a competency like negotiating and has all kinds of great ideas, eventually when you have some employees and you want to help them learn on the job, it has wonderful ideas on how to build up all the different competencies, whether it's interpersonal skills or technical skills. There's about 60 competencies in there. I gave my boss this book this year because I think that whenever he started the same day as me, oh, by the way, whenever you start into a new role, I think it's always great, to know what are the capabilities you're trying to build in that organization and share that. And FYI helps you share that because it's a really great reference book. And finally, out of FYI, one of the things I learned is you need to know your strengths and opportunities and then surround yourself with people the least like you. Right? So I'm a go get it done. So I make sure I always have someone who's much more risk averse at my side.